Thanks for joining us tonight on Speed Sport Magazine. You know, for 80 years, Speed Sport has been the trusted destination for motorsports fans looking to quench their thirst for news on their favorite forms of racing. Now we've got another way that we can provide you with all the up-to-date motorsports news you're craving. It's through our free daily e-newsletter, and you can sign up now by simply texting Speed Sport to 22828. That's Speed Sport to 22828. Tony Stewart made headlines in July after winning his first winged sprint car race since his injury 1 year ago. The victory was sweet for Stewart and helped close what became a tumultuous chapter in his racing career. So much of your early career was all non-wing stuff. This part of your open wheel career is all wing related. How come? Was it just an animal you hadn't conquered yet?
Yeah, it really was. That's the simplest way to put it. I hadn't been there, done that yet. Didn't have the t-shirt. I had the shirts because I was a car owner with Danny Lasowski when we built our first team in 2001, but I had just never driven. And I would stand up on top of the trailer, and Jimmy Carr was his crew chief at the time, and I would sit there and go, man, he's loose. And he's like, no, he's not loose, he's tight. He's shaking it loose. And I'm sitting there trying on the trailer to watch it, and the only sense I've got is sight to see what's going on. And then when I started driving him, it was just something different that I hadn't ran yet, but I could see what Jimmy was seeing finally. When I got on the trailer, I'm like, yeah, I can see him doing it now. So it made me understand it better, but and still to this day, of every car I've driven in my career, that wing car was the hardest car to learn.
Really?
To learn how to drive and to get used to. Everything else, everything else you drive, all the weight goes to the right and everything moves about the same. You get in a wing sprint car, and now when you go in the corner, the car leans to the left, leans to the inside, not the outside, and just everything felt different. So it just took a long time to get comfortable. So that was the challenge.
How good are you at it now?
I've won a couple races here and there in them. I mean, I'm not Steve Kinzer or Donnie Schatz or Doug Wolfgang or anything, but that's still part of the challenge. I get to race with guys that are my heroes in these cars and get to run with the best of the best. I find it funny because people debate about going back and running a lower division, and where are these people and where these fans that call this a lower division have no clue what they're talking about, because there's nothing lower about it. If you can go out and you can beat Steve Kinzer and Sammy Swindell and Donnie Schatz and Darren Pittman and Joey Saldana, if you can go beat those guys, or if you can just go to Pennsylvania one weekend and beat anybody at a local track in Pennsylvania, or go to the Outlaws and win, you've done more than winning a nationwide race, in my opinion. I think you've had to run a better race than that. It's not lower. It might be lower visibility. It may not be on national TV every Sunday or Saturday, but it's good racing with great race car drivers, and if you can beat them at their own game that they do 2-3 days a week, you have done something. So it's a big deal.
And then it got a bad rap. When you got injured, it really brought it to the forefront. We'd had some issues prior to your injury, but that's when the rest of the media jumped on board, and they're uninformed about a lot of this. And it really just kind of bubbled over, didn't it?
Yeah, it was almost ludicrous from where I sit and where you sit. A writer for the New York Times, Viv Bernstein, wrote an article after Jason died the next week, Jason Leffler, and talked about how it didn't have safer walls and this and that. That form of racing's never had safer walls, and safer walls wouldn't have fixed Jason's crash anyway. It wouldn't have changed anything. And when I ran good and when I was doing good in racing, it was helping the sport, because it was just bringing attention to people that didn't necessarily follow it every week. And then when I got hurt, the media, the ones that didn't know anything about it, and in her article she had an expert from some university, a college professor, that was commenting on it and commenting on the wings, and the stuff that she said was so backwards of what really is going on. And sprint car racing's strong enough that the true core fans, it was going to survive, but it got a black eye that it didn't deserve, that people that maybe thought, I might want to go see one of these. Now they read it and they're like, I don't want anything to do with it. And people see that I'm going to go run a sprint car, and it's a sprint car to them is like the devil. It has nothing to do with the cars or anything like that. Many of them still haven't even seen what one looks like, but they think just because I got hurt in it that something's wrong. And every type of race car has people get hurt in them all the time, but there was just a string with Jason Leffler and Josh Burton, Kramer Williamson, and myself in a pretty short amount of time that it got a black eye that it didn't deserve.
To me, they probably wouldn't even talked about it had you not gotten hurt, which is sad because those other 3 drivers were very deserving of the conversation. And so when I looked at that, 2 things come out of that to me. One, on the negative side, it brought a negative attention to the sport because it was you, which to me meant you're bearing some pressure or weight on your shoulders because of this, which was not necessarily fair. At the same time, because it was you, it forced the industry to take a hard look at it immediately, and some good things came out of it.
Yeah.
There was some safety improvements that happened that might not have happened, Tony, if it wasn't for the fact that you did get hurt.
And I don't think it was just me. I mean, I think it was the whole sequence of Jason and Josh and Kramer and myself. It was kind of like the movement with Dale Sr. I mean, we lost Adam Petty, we lost Kenny Irwin, Tony Roper, all those guys, Blaze Alexander, and then when Dale Sr. got hurt, it was like this. We got to do something. And I think it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back when it happened to Dale. And I think it was the same thing in my scenario, where we lost too many people here. It's not just an isolated incident. I was the 4th guy that year that had a big moment. So, you know, and something good has come out of it. I mean, CNR and Jimmy Carr came up with a tether system that we run in our cars that I'm very confident would, if we'd have had that last year, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and we never would have had the problem. It did start a movement. Knoxville Raceway, the World of Outlaws, the All-Stars made front-end tethers mandatory. Is it where it needs to be? I don't know that you ever can say it's as safe as you can possibly make it, but at the same time, I think everything is being looked at, and you know, cars go faster and faster, and just like cars on city streets, you can't protect everybody from everything. Accidents are going to happen. That's why they call them accidents. But I feel confident that there's been enough really good people that care about the sport, like Jeannie Butler and Randy LaJoy. There's people that have looked at that and said, how can we make this better? How can we protect the drivers, and how can we keep this from happening again? How can we keep from losing Jason and Josh and Kramer and Tony getting knocked out for the year? How can we change that? And I think there's been a lot of positive things come out of it.
It's encouraging to see that the sport continues to make improvements in safety in the name of those that were lost and injured. Tony Stewart has become an important voice in sprint car racing, and we'll have more of our exclusive conversation with Smoke in the coming weeks. We'll be back with more Speed Sport Magazine right after this. Thursday nights, MAVTV is the place to be for the best in American real racing. Speed Sport Magazine presents insightful features to keep you, the fan, in the know.
And I scare the hell out of myself.
Tell me the truth. You're better than Rico? And Speed Sport brings you great racing action. Tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific for Speed Sport and Speed Sport Magazine.